A traffic nightmare along Highway 1 in the Willingdon area has finally come to an end. After 8 hours of closure, we check in with Greg Harper live along Highway 1 for the good news. Greg?
Good morning, Jody. Yes, finally, Highway 1 here in Burnaby open in both directions. It was closed in both directions for hours after an earlier morning accident involving this diesel truck, which was towed away just before 8 o'clock this morning. It was involved earlier in a two-vehicle crash just before 1 a.m. and it took crews a while to get this truck upright again. It was on its side for most of the morning here. Part of the challenge was to get all the diesel out of it. There was about 12,000 liters of diesel that had to be drained from it before they could figure out on how to get it upright again. So here's a look at traffic now flowing in both directions. We were staring at an empty highway for most of the morning here. The Burnaby Fire Department was working very hard to get Highway 1 reopened as soon as possible.
We had a two-car collision. A tanker truck rolled over and struck another vehicle, which has been removed. There's always a risk for hazardous materials like this to cause into combustion, explosion, that type of thing. Diesel isn't as volatile as gasoline, but there still is an inherent danger with it.
So the accident itself, that's being investigated. We are hearing the driver of the diesel truck was taken to hospital, but suffered only minor injuries. Now, I mentioned there was 12,000 liters of diesel they had to drain from this tanker truck. About 200 liters did make it onto the roadway, but according to the Burnaby Fire Department, it did not make it into the storm drains or into the waterway. So that is good news. Also good news, Jody, Highway 1 open in both directions once again here in Burnaby. Jody?
Nice to top the news with a good news story finally at the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks, Greg. Unfortunately, we have bad news out of France. French security forces have launched a massive manhunt for 3 gunmen who shot and killed at least 12 people at the Paris office of a satirical newspaper. Another 8 people were injured and several are in critical condition. The masked gunman carried out the attack over the noon hour, killing the paper's editor, at least 1 cartoonist, and 2 police officers guarding the office after previous threats. The weekly paper has drawn repeated threats for its caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. Among other controversial sketches, the president of France is calling the killings a terrorist attack and has raised the country's alert to the highest level. Divers and an unmanned underwater vehicle have spotted the tail of the missing AirAsia plane in the Java Sea. Flight 8501 disappeared 11 days ago with 162 people on board. Today's find is particularly important because the cockpit, voice, and flight data recorders are located in the aircraft's tail. However, powerful currents in murky water continue to hinder the operation. Searchers did manage to get a photo of the debris 9 kilometers from where the plane lost contact. So far, only 40 bodies have been recovered. The search has been suspended for a 21-year-old man in the North Shore backcountry. Another day of searching, including aerial sweeps, turned up no sign of Leon Jin. He was last heard from New Year's Eve when he told family he was going hiking. It's believed Jin was interested in doing the Haines Loop, which starts at Lynn Headwaters, running through the Haines Valley. The search has been made more challenging by wet, snowy conditions.
Since we don't know exactly where he went, this is our best clue so far. So we have teams that have been flown into a helipad in Haines Creek, other teams into Lynn Lake and into the Norvan Falls area to cover all of these trails right around here, because that's where there's a good possibility that he would have gotten lost or gotten into trouble.
If North Shore Rescue gets more information about Jin's whereabouts, they will resume the operation, but the case remains under investigation by Vancouver police. The benchmark price for a detached home in Metro Vancouver has now hit $1 million. The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver says the figures represent an 8.1% increase from 1 year ago. Townhouse prices have advanced 4.5% to $476,000 over the past year, while condo prices have climbed 3.5% to hit just over $380,000.
Looking at Vancouver right now and where we're going forward, I think, because of our high house price levels, we're probably more exposed to interest rate risk than other areas of the country, in the sense that movements in the interest rate have a larger dollar effect on people's mortgage payments here. And if you think that people here are relatively more squeezed, it becomes a little bit more challenging and problematic.
8:05, let's talk some sports here. It was an eventful day at Rogers Arena with the return of a prominent player and a visit from one of the NHL's most improved teams.
Didn't wind up in the net. Richardson from a sharp angle, stick handling, rebound, Stanton scores!
Ryan Stanton's second career goal sparked the Canucks against the Islanders. The Islanders fourth in the Eastern Conference standings. They aren't the pushovers they used to be, but the Canucks got past them with goals from Nick Bonino and Lyndon Bay, giving Vancouver a 3-2 victory. And Eddie Lack nabbed his third win of the season as the Canucks win their second straight. Islanders weren't the only visitors at Rogers Arena yesterday. Roberto Luongo held court at his old stomping ground. The goalie is in town with the Florida Panthers, of course. Luongo reflected on 8 seasons before being traded in March after a roller coaster stay here, including controversy, of course, and public criticism. He returns in good spirits and on good terms.
The positive definitely outweighs, the few negative things that happen. So for me, I have nothing but good things to say. Whether that's, with my stay here, with the people that work here, management, past or present, it was great. I mean, I enjoyed it, and that's why I'm really excited to be here this week.
Couldn't quite help himself, though, because Luongo admitted he may still be a Canuck if he'd started the Winter Classic. Instead, he sat on the bench. He was traded 2 days later. Luongo and the Panthers take on the Canucks tomorrow night. Will you cheer? In other NHL news, Toronto Maple Leafs, they basically broke Twitter. They fired head coach Randy Carlyle yesterday, and shortly after, Phil Kessel responded to questioning from a Toronto Star reporter. Take a listen.
You think it's my fault? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
is that what you're saying?
Saying that you're difficult to coach.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking you a question. Are you difficult to coach, do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I play, hey?
Thanks, Phil.
This guy's such an idiot here. He's always been like this here.
Frustration for Phil Kessel. The reporter Dave Feschuk suggested to Kessel that he was a difficult player to coach. Kessel leads all Maple Leafs and is tied for 9th in the NHL in scoring with 41 points, but he's faced some criticism from former coaches. He's also in a funk at the moment, notching only 1 goal in his last 9 games.